One of the greatest things that I hope happens in your family is that as your kids are reading this, and maybe you're reading this, I hope you're reading it, your kids are going to want to talk to you about it. They're going to want to ask questions. And to help make that discussion a little more fluid and to help you know what to say, I've put some questions in the back of the book. It's kind of not a study guide, but it's kind of a discussion guide, so that when you finish a chapter, when your kids finish a chapter, you can go to the back of the book. There are, a series of questions that you can look at, go through them with your kids, talk about them, bring them to the dinner table, discuss these things. Again, have them turn off the video games for a few minutes, talk about these things, and talk about how they can apply them in their lives. That's the hope for this. It's not just that this is a one-time through book and everybody's done. I'm hoping that this becomes something that you guys go back to over and over again, that as you apply a principle and you're ready for the next step, you can go back here, read What Happens to Katie Bell again, or go back to the discussion questions and take the next step. Do you have a hard time teaching your kids about money? If that's the case, let me assure you, you are not alone. I think all of us struggle with that a little bit. I know in my own family, we didn't talk about money much growing up. It was kind of a taboo subject. And so even with my own kids for a while, we didn't talk about it maybe as much as I would have liked. Perhaps you feel a little hypocritical. You're not wealthy yourself, or you don't know exactly what the right things to teach them are, and so you hold back a little bit. Or maybe you don't know when to teach them. Like, when is it too young to teach a kid about compound interest and debt? And maybe you feel like you missed the boat. Well, you should have taught them this earlier, and now they're older and you can't teach them again. Because of the confusion around it, we don't do it. But here's the problem with that. If you're not teaching those concepts and principles at home, it's probably not happening. If you go to any high school or any school in the nation, the chances are they're not getting those lessons there. They may be learning a little bit about simple things like interest and bank accounts, but they're not really learning the principles of wealth. They're not learning about value, abundance, or any of the other concepts that will help them formulate healthy relationships with money and really know how to go out and pursue money in the right way. There are some things that I was taught as a kid that may not have served me as well as I would have liked. They're ideas that were taught to me because maybe my grandparents taught it to my parents and then they taught it to me. And perhaps at some time in history, those were good ideas, but in our modern economy, they don't really work. And I think there are some of those concepts that were taught and they've never been a good idea. I want to talk about this little guy, the piggy bank. And I bet most of you out there at some point in your lives received a piggy bank. I know I've received several piggy banks. The piggy bank I remember very vividly being given to me looked something like this. It had 3 slots, and on one of them it said savings, one said spending, and one said giving. And I think the concept of this saving box is amazing because you're teaching your kids that there's different purposes for money, and then they need to separate that out so that they can take advantage of money in different ways. And so I have no problem with the concept of saving. In fact, I think when your kids can start understanding the ideas behind index funds and behind interest and compound interest, those are powerful, powerful topics that we need to be teaching them. But what I really struggle with is that for most kids, the very, very first thing we teach them is to save. And for many kids, the only thing they ever hear in their entire life is that they need to be saving their money so someday they'll have enough to retire, or someday they'll have enough to do the things they want to do. And my struggle with that goes back to the fact that if you teach them to save, what you're inadvertently saying to them, if you get your hands on some of that money, you need to take it and you need to hoard it away. You need to put it in this bank and hide it and keep it away from everyone. You probably don't even know you do this because I know that most of you would not tell your kids this. It's not the message you want to tell, and it's not the message that I want to teach my kids, but we do it anyway because that's what we were taught. Savings is so important. So today, I want to flip that on its head, because instead of focusing our kids on scarcity from the time they're young, I think we should first focus them on abundance. If you think about the world that we live in, I mean, just for a second, think what our parents and grandparents dealt with. In a world that they lived in, if they created a product or they wanted to sell something, they could probably sell to people within their city, or maybe the next city over, or if they hired a sales force, maybe a few cities beyond that. As a small company, that was about their reach. But now, in our modern economy, and with all the technology we have, for a few $100, somebody can start a business, create a product, order it from China, have it shipped to South America, have it shipped back to the United States, and sell that to individuals not only in the United States, but all around the world. So the world we live in is a world of abundance. And yet we first teach our kids to think of scarcity. And so we need to flip it. We need to first teach our kids that this world is amazing, that the world there's abundance out there to be taken advantage of. And then they're probably going to ask, well, that's great, Dad or Mom, but what do I do with that? And so the next thing you teach is to teach them to create value. And you find something out there, you solve a problem, you do something for someone that they don't want to do for themselves, but you create value for others. It's not self-centered. You're not doing it for yourself. You're not doing it so you make money. But if you will go out and truly solve someone's problem, I promise you the money will not be a problem. If they feel like you are giving them something of value, they will compensate you for that. And that's what we need to teach the kids. First, there is an abundance, and if you want some of that abundance, create something that people care about, create value, and you will be compensated for it. And that's the lesson today. Stop focusing on scarcity, stop teaching your kids first about savings, and instead teach them about abundance and value. And that's the Wealth Mentality Way.